Okay, let's just dive right into this, shall we? Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to investigate one of the most baffling, kind of funny, and totally mysterious phenomena the human mind has to offer. We are looking at the actual science behind déjà vu, that strange, fleeting glitch in the brain that makes you stop dead in your tracks. Picture this scenario for a second. You're out paddleboarding for the literal first time in your entire life. You've never done anything remotely like it. But suddenly, as you're standing there balancing on the water, you get this incredibly distinct, uncanny memory of making these exact same arm motions, under this exact same blue sky, with the exact same waves lapping at your feet. It feels deeply, deeply familiar, but you know for a fact it's a brand new experience. So what on earth is actually going on up there? Well, the term itself literally translates from French as already seen. And at its core, déjà vu is defined as the illusion of feeling like you've lived through a present situation in the past. In the science world, they call it a momentary mnemonic conflict. And look, I really hate to break it to the sci-fi fans out there, but no, it's not an actual glitch in the Matrix. It's a very real and honestly very fascinating cognitive illusion. What's really interesting here is the comedic tension that's happening in real time inside your head. Déjà vu is essentially a fundamental clash. On one side, you have this overpowering feeling of familiarity. Your brain is practically screaming, hey, I know this. But on the exact same timeline, your logical knowledge of novelty is firing back, saying, that's completely impossible. We've never been here. It's that exact simultaneous mismatch that makes the whole experience feel so incredibly jarring. Section 1. The already seen illusion. Who is most likely to experience this brain glitch? So who exactly falls victim to this strange illusion? Well, it turns out roughly 60% of the population reports having this happen to them at least once in their lives. That is a massive chunk of us walking around experiencing these totally random, spontaneous illusions of memory. But it doesn't just happen equally to everyone. Let's look at our prime suspects. Interestingly, research actually shows that the frequency of déjà vu decreases with age, which makes young adults highly susceptible. Who else is on the list? Frequent travelers, people dealing with high stress or fatigue, folks who watch a lot of films, and people who vividly remember their dreams. Playfully speaking, if you're a tired, stressed-out young backpacker who loves catching a movie, your brain is absolutely prime real estate for this illusion. Section 2, the memory mix-up, the Gestalt familiarity hypothesis. So how is this illusion actually pulled off? Our first scientific suspect is a simple mix-up in how we process physical spaces. Researchers, like Dr. Ann Cleary at Colorado State University, have investigated this using virtual reality. Imagine you're visiting a new friend's living room for the first time. Suddenly, bam, you get hit with déjà vu. What might actually be happening is that the specific arrangement of the furniture, like the way the couches, the tables, and the lamps are spatially laid out, perfectly maps onto an old place you've been to, like maybe your doctor's waiting area. Your brain recognizes the pattern, but it fails to consciously recall the doctor's office itself. Dr. Cleary's research suggests that when a brand new scene shares a spatial layout with a previously viewed scene that you just can't quite bring to mind, it triggers that eerie feeling of familiarity. Your brain is basically running background feature matching. It recognizes the geometry of the room, even if it can't actually place the memory. It's wild. Section 3. A glitch in the brain. The dual processing theory. Proposed by Robert Efron way back in 1965, this theory essentially treats your brain like a slightly malfunctioning, laggy email server. Let's walk through the steps of how this happens. Your brain sorts incoming signals in the left hemisphere's temporal lobe. Normally, signals from both sides of the brain arrive perfectly synced up, but occasionally a tiny, tiny transmission delay of just milliseconds occurs. Signal 1 arrives, and then signal 2 enters just a fraction of a second later, completely out of sync. Because of this tiny delay, your brain accidentally reads a single, continuous event as two entirely separate experiences. And because of that, the brain falsely perceives what's happening in the present as a memory. This split perception thing often happens if you see something out of the corner of your eye while you're distracted. You take in the scene, and a split second later, you give it your full attention. But because of that lag, your brain has already logged that first distracted glance, creating an instant false history for the exact present moment. Section 4. Clues from clinical epilepsy. Grounding the mystery in serious neurology.
Now, a massive amount of what we actually understand about déjà vu comes from clinical observations of patients with temporal lobe epilepsy, or TLE, where déjà vu is a very common aura leading up to a seizure. This brilliantly illustrates what we call the decoupled familiarity hypothesis. It's all about how the labor is divided in your head. The rhinal cortex handles that vague feeling of familiarity, that sense of just knowing. During déjà vu, this area misfires, falsely signaling that you've experienced this before. But right below it, the hippocampus, which handles actual episodic recollection, is working perfectly normally. The hippocampus basically looks around and says, no, we don't have any memory of this. One part generates the false feeling, and the other plays fact-checker and catches the error.
And this is where we really have to make a crucial distinction, because there's a big difference between déjà vu and déjà vécu. Déjà vu is just erroneous familiarity, a brief, glitchy feeling. But déjà vécu is erroneous recollection. It is a much more intense, cinematic feeling of having literally already lived the moment. Déjà vécu involves a much larger brain network and the actual false retrieval of context, which sometimes makes people feel like they can even predict what's about to happen next. Section 5. Why does it happen? Is this glitch actually a feature? So if déjà vu is just a glitch, why on earth would our brains keep such a weird quirk around? Well, some researchers argue it actually gives us an evolutionary advantage. Think about it. Out in the wild, prioritizing quick recognition over perfect accuracy is exactly what keeps you alive. Furthermore, déjà vu acts as a built-in error detection system. When you feel that weird clash of familiar but new, it's literally your brain raising a flag, actively checking for cognitive dissonance or false memories. It is a highly adaptive system running a diagnostic check to make sure your memory files are correctly sorted. So the next time you're exhausted, traveling through a totally new city, and suddenly you feel like you've been standing on that exact same street corner before, don't freak out. Just smile, appreciate your rhinal cortex having a little misfire, and thank your hippocampus for catching the error. Knowing your triggers, like travel, stress, and fatigue, where do you think your brain will glitch next? Keep an eye out. Until next time.